Well, hello, everybody. I'm Hal,
And I'm Melanie.
and we want to welcome you to another episode of Making Biblical Family Life Practical. We're going to talk about something which is a little dicey, but it's one of those milestones in life, as you raise your family and you raise your kids to the threshold of adulthood, and something happens then, or it's supposed to happen then.
Well, they're supposed to grow up and move out. That is, unless you live in a hutong or some situation where the kids live in right there in your little
Well, you need to,
village.
yeah,
But
okay, you brought it. You got to explain what a hutong is.
okay, a hutong is it's the traditional housing that they have in China, and
Hmm.
basically it's the houses are all connected around an alleyway, so that you can go from your mama's house to your aunt's house to your grandparents' house to your uncle's house to your house without going outside.
So it's
All the
kind of
houses are connected.
it's sort of like a family compound, but compressed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So if you don't live in a family compound or a hutong or an alleyway or whatever else,
At some
that's
point,
at some
your
point,
kids generally leave home,
yeah.
and that's something I think how that moms really struggle with because
Why is that?
well, you love your kids and you want them to be around you because you love them. And
Yeah,
and
but
I see a lot of moms getting really, really sad and depressed and despairing as their kids get ready to leave home. But really, it's an exciting thing, and we've seen some good stuff come out of it. But
yeah, yeah.
a little bit of preview. We want to talk about all the different ways this can happen because
And some of them are joyful, and some of them not so much.
sometimes it's
Hmm.
your child's going off to do something amazing and they're leaving home.
Hmm.
Sometimes at the other extreme, your child is a problem in your house and you have to
Child,
ask them to leave.
your child has issues, and it's time for them to be in their own. Yeah, and
And there's all kinds of stuff in the
yeah.
middle, like a
Hmm.
child who maybe needs
Hmm.
to be getting out on their own and they don't think they're ready, or maybe um,
Hmm.
the
They're in
child is
some
ready and the parents aren't ready to let go.
or there's some sort of transitional state.
Yes.
We've experienced a bunch of these different
Or they
situations.
might move home for a good reason or temporarily.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Well, one thing that's happening, there's kind of a national trend, and people have noticed this. In fact, several years ago, I read and reviewed a book called "Escaping the Endless Adolescence," and
Yeah.
one of their chapter headings was "Whatever Happened to Growing Up and Moving Out." Now, this was probably 8 to 10 years ago. This was not recently, and yet,
And yet the situation has only gotten further in that direction.
I was looking at some data from the Census Bureau this week, and they said that in 1960, okay, get that in your mind. So
Okay.
we're talking kind of like when our parents were just coming out of college.
Yeah, when
Okay,
our parents were leaving home.
when our parents were leaving home,
Yeah.
or graduating from college and starting out in adult life, they said in 1960 that basically one out of 11 young men between 25 and 35, say, only like 11% of them still lived at home with their parents. Okay,
Yeah. So a little bit
so
less than 1 in 10.
yeah,
Yeah, a little bit
about,
more than 1 in 10.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little more than 1 in 10. Okay.
Okay.
um in 2019, which was the latest year they had data,
Yeah.
it's over 20% now.
Really?
It's gone up, and there was a big uptick in the right around 2008 or so, and it's just gone up from there.
Well, there are reasons
And
for that. The
it's
economy has been tough. It's been really, really hard, especially as the cost of insurance has risen.
mm,
It's been harder for young people to get jobs
that's yeah.
because companies that have to provide insurance,
Mhm.
employees suddenly become much more expensive.
Well, and another thing too that's happening later now than it did back then is the age of first marriage has moved on,
Very
and
true.
we've talked about
The
that a good bit.
Yeah, the age of first marriage, um, when we got married, and for a couple of centuries before that,
Hmm.
had been 18 to 20 for young women
Right.
and 20 to 22 for young men.
Hmm.
But that has now, it's 28 approaching 29 for young women and 29 approaching 30 for young men.
Well, I was looking at
So,
that same database, and they were talking about living arrangements for young adults. In that
yeah.
25 to 34, I think was what they say demographically, but the 25 to 35 decade, they said in 1960 again, like 80% of young adults, men and women, like
Yeah.
over 80% were married and living with their spouse.
Interesting.
Okay. Now it's more like 35%.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge difference.
And actually, there's a little bit of disparity, which I think is because women are marrying older guys. So it's
Yeah.
like more women are living with their spouse than men.
Yeah.
Tick, 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 figure that out. But
Yeah.
anyway, the point being, there's been a lot of shift there. And so, there's reasons, there are explanations, whatever. The question kind of comes up when you look at these things. People have made a lot of rhetorical weight on young people living in the basement. They're living with
Yeah.
their parents. Is that always necessarily a bad thing, a character issue?
I don't think so.
No, you can't
No,
say
I
that.
don't think so because we have seen situations
Hmm.
where, like, I think about our friend at church.
Yeah.
After college, he moved home because his mother had cancer
Hmm.
and his father had abandoned her,
Yeah.
and he moved home to take care of his mom. That's definitely a good thing.
Yeah. That's an
You
honorable,
know,
a noble thing. That's the right thing to do.
it may be that two
Hmm.
generations are living together in order to save money. I can definitely see that. The problem is, it is very hard
Hmm.
to treat your children like adults when they are living under your roof. Now, it can be done. And
Yeah.
we've had kids here for various reasons at different times that were
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah. That were in transitional periods, like between college and starting a first job, or
Or
commuting
helping
for
us with
classes, or
something.
helping us for some. Yeah. But that would be a good topic for a whole session,
Right.
a whole episode. But
But it is difficult.
mhm,
You have to consciously think,
yeah,
this this child of mine is no longer a child. This child of mine is an adult. I need to
right.
treat them as another adult in the house. And it's tough,
Mhm.
and it can cause a lot of friction.
And that's one of the reasons it's probably good to be thinking in most cases, just along the line, they are going to move out and have their own place.
And you need to be preparing them to move out and have their own place.
Yeah.
You need to be giving them the skills they need to do that.
Well, okay, that's all right. Let's go right into that. How can you make this happen? Because ultimately, I want my kids to have their own home and have their own families and to come visit, but I expect them to have their own world to maintain,
Right,
just like we did.
right, right,
And so, let's talk about, well, how can we get to that? How can we make this happen? And you hit it right there. I think the first thing is preparing our young people to be adults.
right. And
Okay,
so how do you do that?
sure.
Well, you have them do chores. You have them cook and clean and do laundry so that they're prepared to do those things they're going to need to do for their own families. And you prepare them to manage their own finances, prepare them to have a job,
Hmm.
to take care of themselves, to take care of a family.
Right, right.
And then you help them through the transition.
Well, I think even besides that, not just giving them skills, but giving them the right attitude about it, because
Yes.
you know there's kind of a running joke in the culture about adulting. I don't want to be adult today, and that's kind of sad, honestly, to say I don't want to be a grown up. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want to work and produce and such. You
But
know,
on the other hand, I'm seeing parents that don't want their kids adulting. They want to make the decisions for their children. They want to
yeah.
micromanage them. They want to helicopter parent them. I can think of several families I know personally where
Well,
kids
that's
in their
yeah.
20s and 30s and their parents are treating them like they're 13.
Yeah, and yeah, that there's a lot of dynamics going in on that too. So, but okay, training them so that they are able to live on their own and take care of themselves, just at that baseline level.
Yeah.
And I think preparing them with the idea that, hey, you know what? Yeah, work is hard because it's a fallen world and the curse affects all of us. But honest to goodness, it is good to have work. It is good to have a purpose in life where you get up in the morning and go do something productive and get to have some sense that, yeah, this is part of my independence, is that I can support myself.
Well,
Or,
that's a message we're really not giving this generation. That, how
mm, what?
our family life, being
Hmm.
married to you,
Yeah.
has been a blast.
Second thing,
It has been
telling them
so much fun.
marriage is not a joke. Marriage is a blessing of God.
It
Just
is.
like our
And
work is a blessing of God, our marriage is a blessing of God.
it's
Family
a
is a blessing of God.
it's a blessing, and it's a blessing that makes things better.
Yeah.
That makes life better.
Oh
And
gosh, yes.
so, I think that we don't express that like we need to kids.
Like, have you ever noticed, however, you ever noticed that just the common conversation when people talk about having babies is they complain. They
Yes.
talk about the burden and the lack of sleep and all the rest of that
I
stuff.
always hated that, by the way.
Yeah, people
Yeah.
always talk bad about it, but then really and truly, God said, hey, this is a blessing. This is a particular blessing
Yeah.
that I'm giving to particular people. And we need to encourage young mothers in particular. When we see them in church and their kids are having a bad day, just to smile, be as nice as we can to them and all the rest of that, because, really they are doing a good thing. And we need
Yeah.
to teach our young people, hey, one day, if God blesses you, you can be a husband and a father, or you can be a wife and a mother and have your own family and your own home, and this would be awesome.
And moving out and having your own
Hmm.
life is a
Yeah,
good thing.
yeah.
Fulfilling the mission God's given you in life is a good thing, and it's a thing that brings satisfaction and joy.
Hmm.
You know, so let's talk about some of these things. Most of our kids have left home when they went off to college.
And we've talked about that in another episode. Some of the benefits that we saw
Well,
of our kids moving out to college as a transitional thing.
well, it's been a really amazing thing because for several reasons.
Hmm.
I think our kids who left home, who went to college, really learned to appreciate our family as they saw other families. You
True.
know, like
True.
all of our kids have noticed that first fall break when you first come home from college,
Hmm.
our kids have noticed that they're like, I cannot wait to come home. And their friends are like, oh
And
no, I
others are.
have to go home.
Hmm.
And so, they notice other families.
Yeah.
They see what the world's like.
Hmm.
And all of our kids have been like, I love my family. I love what you taught me. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the other hand, there's been some great benefits in the kids left at home because, you know,
Well, they each get a chance to be the older brother or the older
they
sister.
all get a chance to be the
They get
eldest.
to step up and take some of the household responsibility that we expect of the oldest.
And see, it has amazed me to see how much
Hmm.
that next one down has grown up in the 2 or 3 years they've been home as the oldest. That when each child moves away to college,
Hmm.
that oldest one left at home
Hmm.
has it's like putting jetpacks on their maturity. They just grow up
Right.
so much and so fast, and I think it's been really good for them. And also,
Hmm.
I've noticed that we develop a special relationship with the oldest that is home. You
Well,
just naturally turn to the oldest one at home when there's a crisis, when you need special help, when you need to talk to them about something.
yeah.
And that's been really cool to develop that special relationship with each of our kids. Our fifth just left home. So,
Yeah.
we've seen this over this year with our sixth.
Hmm.
And I think that's been really neat.
So there's benefits. There's a number of different benefits of having the older ones prepared and ready to move on, and helping them make that transition. So we want to talk some about that, about some of those practical steps, because a lot of times people come up to us. We've had people ask us, I've got to get this child out of my house for one reason or another. How can I prepare this? How can I make this happen? Well, you know what? When people are asking those questions, typically they've got a 17, 18, 19-year-old that they're
Yeah.
struggling with, and it's kind of hard to say, well, you need to go back when they're 8 years old and start teaching them. No, but what do
Well,
you? But there's
but
even at this point,
more than the skills and stuff,
yeah,
because there's Google. More than the skills and stuff,
yeah.
I think you need to work on relationship before they leave home. Because if you don't have a relationship with them when they leave
Hmm.
home, you don't have anything.
Hmm.
That relationship is what makes you able to have an impact on their life after they leave home, after they grow up. And so I would
Hmm.
counsel parents, if you've got 17, 18-year-old getting ready to leave home
Yeah.
or older, you need to be working on relationship. That's the most important part that you need.
Now, I would like to pick that up and develop that, because I think that's a crucially important point, and I want to spend some time on that.
And we want to talk too about the not so rosy situations where it's not just the expected, they're going off to college, but the child wants to move out, you don't want them to, or you need them to move out, they don't want to,
Yeah.
or there's a crisis.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that after the break.
Mm-hmm.
During the break, I want to talk about Craftsman Crate.
This is our program that we have come up with and developed and tested out pretty thoroughly to help your young people, well, to help people, not just young
Because we
people.
have subscribers of all ages now.
We started out.
It started out, we were thinking hands-on things that teenage boys could do to keep them off their devices.
Right.
It's become hands-on things everybody can enjoy.
They're really designed for learners from the age 12 and up. But if you're a parent and you want to work with your younger child and teach them some of these skills alongside of them,
yeah, with parental input.
With parental input, yes.
It's adult level skills. They learn hands-on things like wood burning, wood carving, basketry, calligraphy. Our most recent one was scrimshaw. There's all kinds of cool things.
Scrimshaw as a skill.
And
chain mail kit.
Yeah, so go to craftsmancrate.com and find out about our subscription box.
Yes, craftsmancrate.com, all one word. Yep. And we hope we'll see you out there. Okay, so we're talking about when you've got young people who are ready to launch or maybe should have already launched or better launch right now. How do you make this transition happen? How do you handle this? And you said the big thing, the R word, the relationship. No matter how you handle this transition, no matter if it's something like you're celebrating all together, or if you say, I'm so sorry, but you have got to move out. Either way, you've got to be very, very careful about the relationship, because that's the tie that brings them back home.
It is, because when your kids leave home, all you have is relationship.
Right.
Their relationship with the Lord, their relationship with you, that's it. You don't have that, you don't have anything.
One of those little things that I find myself saying over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, raising this large family of ours, is don't slam the door, because you damage things, you hurt people, whatever. But there's a larger emphasis on that too, that you don't walk out of a relationship and slam doors behind you, because that damages things, not just the frame of the wood.
It really does.
Damages relationships.
And you know what? You don't want that. And humiliation doesn't motivate people.
No.
And so parents will say to us, I've got a terrible situation. My young adult child is living at home and they're smoking pot at home, or they're using drugs, and I can't allow this in my house. How do I kick them out? Or other parents who say, should I kick out my child? They're taking classes at the community college. I don't think they ought to be doing that. And they got a job that I don't approve of. Y'all, first of all, don't break relationships over disagreements.
Over something that's not a matter of law or morality.
And so if you have a disagreement with the way your child's running their lives, and it's just that, it's a disagreement, what they're doing isn't sinful or dishonorable, then you need to talk. You don't need to kick them out. If you have a child who's endangering the family, who is committing sin against his siblings, or breaking the law, or doing something that endangers the family, yes, you may need to have them move out. You don't need to kick them out. There's a difference. For example, you could come home, scream at them, take their suitcases, throw some stuff in it, and put it on the porch and tell them goodbye. But if you do, you may never see them again.
Right. Because you have slammed the door on them.
It's a very different thing, and sends an entirely different message to sit down and say, you know what, honey, I love you. And I hate that it's come to this, but we've warned you, and I cannot allow you to break the law in our home, because it endangers your other siblings. If somebody rats on you and the police come to our house and there's drugs in our house, your brothers and sisters will be put in foster care.
Yeah.
And that's not right for me to allow that risk. Yeah. And so I think it's time for you to move into your own place. And look, I'm going to help you. I'll help you find a place. I'll help you find furniture. We're going to do this the right way, and I will never stop loving you. But you can't live here anymore.
Well, and that's, you used the phrase that it's come to this. This is not something that's the first time there's a disagreement.
No.
First time you've had an argument, that's it, you're out of here. No, that's like the end of a long chain of discussions and attempts to set things right and all the rest of that. And sometimes, sometimes there's just a level of disagreement, maybe even where you just have to say, for the peace of the family, we
and
need to get you your independence, your own place, to put some airspace between us. Moving them out of their house doesn't mean that you're kicking them out of your heart. That's an
no,
important thing.
and if you do it in a loving way like that,
Hmm.
you're showing that you want the best for them,
Okay.
and you're proving your love to them. You're investing in them, and I think about our particular friends that have
Hmm.
a prodigal daughter,
Hmm.
but they have shown her love.
Hmm.
They don't approve of what she's doing,
Yeah.
but they do love her, and they show her that, and she comes home and visits, and they have a good relationship, and I have every hope that she's going to come to Christ.
And they don't, you know what? They don't have to preach to her. I mean, they raised her for how many years at home before she
She
went off to
knows what
college?
they believe.
She knows what they believe, and she knows that there's a disagreement between what she was taught and what she's doing now. But her parents are saying, you know what? You're an adult. You are living your own life, and you are facing your own consequences. We are here to love you, to pray for you, to give you whatever counsel we can. And they've maintained a relationship so that there is some mutual respect, and there's love, and there's the ability to give counsel, to speak into this person's life, and know
Yeah.
that at least they'll listen. They don't just hang up.
Now, we would
But
recommend Engaging Today's Prodigal by Carol Barnier for parents that they're
mhm,
struggling with a prodigal child.
right.
And we'll put a link,
Okay.
okay? We'll put a link down below this,
Okay.
or on the archive page if you're listening to the podcast,
Right. Hmm.
so that you can find that book. It's really good.
Hmm.
Another situation, though, Hal, that I am
Yeah.
hearing really a shocking amount of the time
Hmm.
is young adults in their 20s or
Hmm.
even 30s
Right.
who are ready to, at least they believe they're ready
Hmm.
to have their own life, move out of the house, and their parents don't want them
Hmm.
to. And, I want to speak for a moment to those parents. It's
Right.
scary. I know it's scary when your kids leave your roof. One mom in one of my mother's groups
Yeah.
said, I don't know what to do. My son wants to leave home, and I just don't think he's ready. And I feel like if he's not under our roof, we can't control the inputs and the things going on in his life. And
Hmm.
and I'm just afraid that if he leaves home, we're just not going to have that same kind of input. And I
But
said, how old is he?
hmm
And she said, 23.
I would think by that time you've already trained him, right? That
And
you've taught
and
him how to make this.
the fact that
Yeah.
she's still talking about controlling him and he's 23 is a warning sign. It's a red flag.
Hmm.
Because, y'all, we can't talk about raising our kids to be warriors for Christ
Hmm.
and then not allow them to become adults.
Yeah.
Because a 23-year-old is old enough to stand on their own and
Hmm.
stand and to live out what they believe.
Right.
And if you have not passed on what you need to pass on by then, you got a problem.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
at that point, you're crippling your child.
Yeah.
You're preventing them from developing into an adult. And that goes for girls too. A young
Hmm.
friend of mine
Hmm.
who is now a homeschool mom with several children, she said, my parents were so concerned that I'd be able to submit to my husband one day and that I'd be a good wife that they did not allow me to make any decisions, she said.
Hmm.
And so when I got married, my husband thought he was marrying a woman. He married a girl
Hmm.
because he would leave home and say, um, honey, find us a plumber to deal with that leak. And and she said, I had a panic attack
Hmm.
because I had never made a decision like that in my life. And I had no idea how to make a decision. You know, our daughters, even if they get married right away, which
Hmm.
really looking at the stats, they're not likely to, they're likely to be
Hmm.
single till they're close to 30.
Hmm.
They need to be grown-ups. They need to be adults. They need to be contributing members of society.
And there's
And that
really.
doesn't necessarily
Mhm.
mean a career. It might be volunteering, but they need to be able to use their gifts for God's glory.
And there is no reason really that somebody in their 20s couldn't just live as a grown up independently. I mean, honest to goodness, they should have at least enough education to find a job. They should have enough basic skills to take care of their basic needs. I mean, Yeah, there's a lot to learn. You keep learning all your life, but
And I don't think it's wrong for a young adult to live at home if they want to, and the parents
hmm
are okay with it,
hmm
but they need to be contributing and not just doing chores like a younger child.
hmm hmm
But I think you should examine it. I think you should
yeah,
examine it and ask yourself, am
hmm
I preventing them from
hmm
learning what the Lord would have them to learn, from using their gifts in the
hmm
ways that God would have them to use their gifts during this time?
right,
Because I'm seeing that happen too often. That
hmm
young adults that could be
hmm
working on the mission God has for them are instead living the same way they did when they were 13 or 14.
you know, you talk about examining things, and being aware of the situation. I think that's critical because a lot of times, if you just took a snapshot, what you see could be explained by two or three different pathways. You see a young person living at home, they've been off to college or whatever, and they are in their mid 20s and they're living in their parents' home. Um, it could be a matter of I'm waiting for my enlistment to take effect and I'm going to be going to training in a few months. Um, it could be I'm taking classes at college. It's cheaper to live at home and commute. It could be um, I don't know what to do in my life and I'm really adrift. And that's a thing, that's something that you can help. That's kind of one of those things. It's not the matter of this is temporary and we know it's going to get better versus this is awful and we've got to make an end to it. But this is like they're kind of stuck.
They're stuck. How do you help the child who's stuck? I think a lot of times when they're
hmm
stuck, they're depressed. They've
Oh yeah,
had something happen in
definitely.
their lives. They're struggling to overcome it,
And
and
and they're discouraged.
they're
They're
discouraged.
lacking in the self-confidence. And you know what? Finding a job is it takes a lot of self-confidence to get
It
out
takes a
there
ton of
and to be
self-confidence.
willing to knock on doors knowing that most of them are going to close. Most of them are not going to open up an opportunity for you, but you have to go out and, plant just so many seeds before you start to see any fruit.
Okay, so let's talk about some ways to help an adult child, whether at home with you or not, get unstuck.
hmm
I think one way is to encourage them to get on a regular schedule. It's easy to shift everything to where they're only up at night. You can't hunt for a job at night,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
it's hard when you're depressed to go to bed, and then it's harder to get up again.
Yeah.
Encourage them to get on a regular schedule.
hmm
Encourage them to start some supplements that might help, like fish oil and probiotics and
Uh-huh.
vitamin D.
Yeah.
Encourage them to get out in the sun and to get exercise.
hmm Encourage them to take some positive steps. There's things like community colleges often have classes at no cost, to learn some skills, to help with job hunting skills or resume skills or whatever. Local employment agencies, and I mean like the the county employment agency, the unemployment
Yeah.
office or whatever, often have resources,
Uh,
job banks and things like
the
that.
temp agencies. You can work for a temp agency.
Yeah.
Um, you can encourage them, brainstorm with them, just like
hmm
we've talked about with the kids going off to college.
Yeah.
Get a big whiteboard and make a list of skills and talents they have,
Yeah.
and then make a list of interests they have and what kind of work environment they would like.
hmm
And then the third list, make a list of things people will pay them for that employee things they're good at
Yeah.
and things they're interested in,
Yeah.
and then help them to make any kind of step. Okay,
hmm
for example, maybe they need to recover some before they're ready to go out and find a corporate job.
hmm
Okay, well, get them selling things on eBay or selling things on Amazon.
Yeah.
There's
And it's
courses they can take to
yeah.
help them start a business.
hmm
Have them go out and do landscaping or do some kind of job where they're working for people, because often when you kind of lost hope,
hmm
it makes you feel helpless. And if you can do anything to give
hmm
them just a leg up
hmm
to feel like, okay, I'm not helpless. I've got some
Yeah.
control here.
That you have some agency,
I
as they
have some
say.
hope.
Yeah.
And anything you can do to do that, to even if it's temporary,
Yeah.
earning some money, somebody paying them for something they're good at doing. Think
Yeah.
outside the box. If
Well.
they
hmm
if you've got a daughter who's really good at decoration,
hmm
she might be able to help people decorate at Christmas. If you've got,
hmm
anything that will help them to take a few steps and get their feet wet
Hmm.
and explore some ideas, and they might find something they're passionate about.
One thing that I didn't learn until way too late in my career was that my identity, who I am, I mean, my worth in the universe is not based on the line on my business card.
That's right.
It has nothing
That's
to do
right.
with my business card. It's my worth is in Christ. I was created by God. I was redeemed by His Son. I'm His servant. And for a time, I'm working as an engineer. For a time, I'm working as a writer. For a time, I'm doing whatever because it's good to work. And it's not so important that I be climbing step by step up a corporate ladder, but to say, you know what? For example, okay, I know a lot of people have aspirations for something which, frankly, it takes a while to build into that. And you know what? There is nothing wrong to say God has gifted me to be a musician, to be an artist, to be in a creative class or something, and I can't find a job that's going to pay me what that's worth. Well, you know what? There is nothing at all wrong with working in a restaurant, working in a delivery service, doing, anything that pays bills while you develop the skills, while you build your portfolio. What you
That's
guess
right.
what? You know what? People like Aaron Copland, great American composer. He wrote film scores, you
Yeah.
know. Sir Laurence Olivier, the great Shakespearean writer, acted in B
Acted in.
movies. And people said, "Why are you doing you're Richard III. Why are you doing this kind of movie?" He says, "I got bills to pay."
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with
There's
that. It's
nothing wrong with that at
honorable.
all.
And so, just to kind of get out of the stasis, get out of the rut and say, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do something. And I'm not making, this is not going to be my whole career. This may not even be the whole month, but I'm going to go out and do something productive, not just sit here and vegetate,
And when
you
you
know?
have an adult child who's stuck, it is more important than ever to treat them as an adult, even if they're in your home,
Yes.
because they already feel incompetent, worthless.
Right.
And if you treat them the same way that you treat their 12-year-old brother or sister, it's going to be really hard.
That's not going to pull them out of that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and that's
Beating people down does not encourage them to do better, you know? Instead, they need
not
encouragement, they need to be built up, they need to be edified. How
right.
we're out of time. We got to
We
go,
are.
folks.
Oh,
Listen,
yes.
follow us, our
Mhm.
podcast
Yes.
at
At
hallandmelanie.com/radio
that's correct.
and or on iTunes,
Hmm.
Spotify, or iHeartRadio.
Hmm.
Please go review us. If you're
Hmm.
watching us on YouTube,
Yep.
review us down there in the comments.
Hmm.
Click like and share
Hmm.
because we want to talk to you next week when
Yep.
we're going to have some more topics that will help you to carry biblical family life into the 21st century.
Okay. And so we thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us again. Until next time, I'm Hal.
And I'm Melanie.
Bye bye now.
Bye, y'all.